Hello, everybody. This is Bryan Smith with 321 Gang, and you're joining us here in our technical podcast, Change the Conversation. And we are so pleased to have with us again Amy Silberbauer from IBM. Hey, Amy.
Hi, Bryan.
So Amy is a solution architect at IBM as part of the Watson IoT business group. Maybe, Amy, you can explain a little bit about that role and what the Watson IoT group is all about.
Sure. So I'm on the continuous engineering offering management team. Our group is in charge of all of the development tooling for continuous engineering, and including the tooling that supports enterprise scaled Agile. And we own the business side of, ensuring that we align our strategy with what we deliver in the tools, how we invest our money in engineering. And so that's what our team is responsible for. And I'm a technical business kind of role on that team.
Okay. And so for folks who may not know, that includes some of the, I guess we have to call them legacy names like Rational, Telelogic, acquisitions that came underneath that business brand, those brands back in the day, right?
That's right. It includes all of the old tooling that everyone hopefully is familiar with, at least, for collaborative lifecycle management, but also systems engineering, modeling, things like that.
Right, model-based systems engineering, those sorts of things. Great. Well, Amy, last time you were with us, we were talking about safe templates, the tooling that you just went over, and tips for how to combine those together. And it was a huge success, so we've invited you back to help us understand some of the newer things that are going on within the Watson IoT brand as it relates to lean and agile and other things too. But I know that some of these things are focused on ease of use and targeting those groups that are trying to lean up their software and systems engineering practices. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Okay. So let's get started. What's new?
So we just recently, in the middle of June, delivered our 606 release. And for the last several years, we've had some basic strategies to support enterprise performance and scale, to support enterprise topologies. We've also have a concerted effort to improve the user experience. There's no surprise that the tools that IBM delivers are complex, heavy. There are some misconceptions about that, but frankly, we are the only vendor that supports the enterprise scale that supports thousands and tens of thousands of users. Right. And with that kind of capability, along with the customization that our tools provide, you lose some of the usability. And we acknowledge that.
It's always a balance, right? Complexity and usability. Complexity, usability. People, of course, want both.
Yeah.
But it's a double-edged sword.
It really is. And so we've really been trying to focus on that, and we're making, small strides, baby steps, and that's some of what's new is to close some of those gaps, not just for enterprise scaled Agile, but other things as well.
Right. Yeah, well, scalability is definitely not the problem, right? Enterprise class tools addressing complexity. The largest systems and software organizations in the world use your tools. So I think what's new is focusing a little bit more on the usability side. And there's a couple of tools that we talked about just earlier that we're going to discuss. There's Quick Create, Quick Planner, and a new program board, right?
Right. That's right. We're real excited about these three things in particular. Quick Planner is something we actually made generally available in the 605 release, which was last December. But it certainly is part of our ease of use and kind of pulling simple, agile, team-based planning into the fold, if you will. The other two are new in 606.
Okay. And let's start then. Are we going to start with Quick Create?
Yeah, Quick Create is the simplest. Yeah.
So who uses Quick Create? I mean, when we're talking about enterprise tooling, there are so many communities of users, and so let's talk about Quick Create and start with who uses it and why they would want to.
Okay. So Quick Create is the most simple improvement that is the most biggest bang for the buck, I would say. I mean, the
All right.
simplest thing we could do that people say, oh my God, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually for any role. If you think of a SAFe or a scaled Agile framework kind of
Right.
topology where you have
Mm-hmm.
portfolio and solution and program and team layers, there are
Mm-hmm.
multiple roles across those layers that need to break down work from higher level, more
Right.
coarse-grained kind of representation of work into
Mm-hmm.
finer grained. So quite simply, let's just say epic story task kind of breakdown.
Right.
And in the past, in the rational team concert tracking and planning space,
Mm-hmm.
it was it frankly it took too many clicks. Too many clicks. It's something that you
Right.
do repetitively over and over and over again, and it's amazing the frustration level how it rises with too many clicks. So
It's true.
Quick Create combines this configuration option to
Mm-hmm.
basically designate what the most typical child work item type is for a parent.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it combines that with the ability to inherit attributes from the parent when you create a
Mm-hmm.
child with a button that you push that
Right.
boom creates children. So it's with one click.
Customizable.
It's
Customizable, I would assume, right? So you do
it's
it once or you do it a couple times and then you can repeat it over and over and over.
exactly. It's the attributes that are inherited are not customizable, but the default child work item type is,
Right.
and the button sits on the work item editor. So as you're doing work breakdown, which is something almost all roles across those levels do, you click a button and boom, the child's created. And it's in its simplicity, it's very grand.
Right, right, right. So that's hence the name, Quick Create. You're
Yeah,
creating work breakdowns much more simply.
right.
Okay, well that's cool. And then Quick Planner. How does that evolve from Quick Create to Quick Planner?
So Quick Create is a very simple new feature. Quick Planner is a huge new feature. It is
Oh,
something that has been in the works and in technical preview and in earlier releases. So customers have been playing with it
mm-hmm.
since back to 604 release, which is
All right.
a couple of years old. And now it is it's ready for prime time. It is ready for prime time in 605. And Quick
Mm-hmm.
Planner is our way of introducing what I like to say a lens on top of the overall tracking and planning framework.
All
So it
right.
works with the same data, but it's a lens that is really geared toward simple team-based agile planning, the things that teams
Mhm.
like to do when they plan, enabling iteration planning with drag
So
and
it's
drop.
team
And
centric. It's team centric.
it's team-centric. It can be used at the program level, but Quick Create was actually built to address the notion that our tools are too complex for teams to use for agile planning.
Hmm. I've
And
never heard
so,
that.
yeah, sure.
Never heard. Yeah.
Um,
No,
but
but it's
it's
good that you're addressing it because
right.
everybody's heard that, and I don't think it's true in many cases, but that's the reputation. So this is great. So sorry to
It's
interrupt.
okay. It's optimized for teams, and it is because of that, it is not as customizable as other parts of the tracking and planning framework. So there we see that balance coming into play where we have users start to use Quick Planner and they say things like, oh, can I add my own custom attributes? Can I do this? Can I do that? Well, the answer is no, because Quick Planner was designed to be low
Quick,
customization and very
quick.
quick to pick up. Exactly.
Well,
So
if we go back to the conversation we had right at the beginning, you got to balance complexity
that's right.
and ease of use, right? And
That's right.
and we know that the tool, Rational Team Concert, the tool that these features are now part of, can be complex, and
Right.
you can do all the things that they're asking, but within this piece of it, the idea is to keep it simple,
Very,
right?
yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
So it provides things like drag and drop, very quick editing of system level attributes that
Hmm.
are across all work item types, the ability to do work breakdown very quickly,
Hmm.
the ability to spin up lanes that are tag based if that's what
Hmm.
you want to do that have nothing to do with workflow. So it kind of combines
Kanban
those.
style. Kanban style?
Kanban style in terms of visualization, but it doesn't support things like work in progress limits that are part of Kanban. But task
Kanban,
boards, you can think of task boards
like a task board, yeah.
and different kinds of ways to view. You can view in a list or view in lanes, and you can spin up lanes and delete lanes and things like that. And we'll kind of get a little peek into that when we demonstrate it.
We have a look at it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we've covered Quick Create. We've briefly discussed Quick Planner, and it seems to me like that's sort of perhaps a workflow that's part of those two. You've got people that can create work quickly, and then you've got the planner piece where people organize that work in an easier easier way. I mean, I guess I'm trying to be more eloquent than that, but I guess that's what it is.
Well, those are our usability kinds of things.
Usability
Yes.
things, right. And so then, how do those then relate to the new program board, or is that something different
It's
in and of itself?
So it is a differentiator in terms of user experience, but I would classify it more under the safe alignment strategy. But it's a little bit bigger than that. Okay.
So the scaled agile
Yes.
framework, just
Yes.
to be clear, it's safe alignment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the program board came out of the concept that SAFE has during PI planning. You have a program board, and it's basically sits on the wall. It's got sticky notes, and it's got lines or yarn, right, threads between those sticky notes that basically represent risk or dependencies. And so what we have done is provide a system program board. So it's in the tools based on the same data. And it's a very big new feature, just like Quick Planner was when it came out. So right now in 606, it's in what we call technical preview, which quite simply means it's where we want feedback on it. It's not something you could call support to report a defect on. We already know it's tech preview. It's not, general. It's not production ready.
So you have a group of clients that are already using it and providing that feedback right now.
Yeah, and you can get the 606 release of Rational Team Concert and put the program board in if you want to try it out. It doesn't. It's not automatically there. But it is modeled after the SAFE program board, but it's bigger than that. It actually is SAFE agnostic. So for those customers that say, well, I want to visualize and manage my dependencies, but I'm not using SAFE. What do I do? Well, this works for any kind of methodology. It quite simply is showing dependencies within a specified scope so that you can look at things that are at risk and take some mitigating action against that. So it's an actionable dependency visualization feature.
So so at the beginning we were talking about who uses these tools. So the Quick Create, pretty much anybody can quickly add work to something, which then gets, that work has to be planned. So Quick Planner, you can use that to organize the work. Who uses the program board, and when do they use it typically?
That's a great question. The program board is, if we kind of follow SAFE's scenario, which I have in presenting what you do with the program board at a high level. Essentially, the way that it works is you as an organization, a program in SAFE terms, which is a team of teams. As an organization, you go through planning your next iteration or your next increment, and the program board starts to come into play. As you're planning, the teams are breaking features down into, I'm using features in air quotes, so that's, it doesn't have to be that work item type. The teams are breaking work down from parent level work into child level work, and the program board is showing the organization where dependencies are starting to be manifested. And as the teams are planning and targeting those child work items, stories, for example, for iterations in that program increment, we will then start to see where we have dependencies that are red or green. In other words, a dependency is red if the blocker is planned later than the blocked work, right? Right. Or they're green. That's okay. You can have dependencies. There's no problem with that as long as they are sequenced in the right way. So during planning, you're watching for that and mitigating those planning risks. And then while the teams are actually doing their work,
Mm-hmm.
Implementing stuff. They are going to be introducing or removing dependencies. And so it's throughout that planning and execution cycle that you would use the
I
program.
see. And so if we were to use safe terminology, is this art planning? I mean, do you
Yes.
use it during art planning, or I guess that's PI planning?
Yes.
And then when you're executing your art, people are using that work breakdown and using the dependencies to understand how they need to coordinate and align their work with other teams, other groups,
That's
and that
right.
kind of thing.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay. Well, very interesting. I'm really looking forward to having a look at all of these because I have more questions, but I know that we don't want to go too long. So why don't we? I think you've got these tools queued up, and you're going to be able to give us a little bit of a preview of what they look like, and then of course for our viewers, we'll have links at the bottom of at the end for people to see more. So why don't we queue over to? We're going to start with Quick Create, right?
Yes.
All right, let's do that. Okay, so Amy, what are we looking at here? I see the JKE Account Management Program. So JKE has been a bank within IBM for what, at least 15 years?
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, a long time. Everyone that knows IBM tooling probably knows the money that matters sample.
Exactly, at least on the rational telelogic side, right?
So this
okay.
is a safe version of this, scaled agile framework version of this. So this is actually a program or an art, if you want to use safe terminology, and it's got features and stories. It's actually what you're looking at is Rational Team Concert's dashboard, and it's this is a program that's in the middle of executing on a program increment. And so it's a sample environment, which actually customers can get to on an older version of Rational Team Concert, and we can point them to that later. But this is what I use to demonstrate some of the big new features. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is Quick Create.
So
and I mentioned, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Just to make sure I'm clear. So what we're looking at here is a one PI, one program increment, or one iteration. Is that the word you use? I mean, iteration is probably too small, right? It's a 6 to 8 week planning event.
Yes. So what we're looking at is actually the art or the program's dashboard, and you can see there are multiple tabs where it's this is the overall program, and so we can look at the planning for the next program increment. This is the planning for the current one, and so this is just a dashboard for the program itself. And when we get into Quick Planner, we will see in the context of iteration planning the current program increment that's under planning.
And so we see PI4, I see under roadmap. So is this PI4 that we're supposedly
program
looking
increment
at?
number 4, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay.
We got objectives and features and roadmap. Real quick, what does roadmap mean in this context?
So a roadmap...
Is that a higher level?
A roadmap is a roadmap plan, so it cuts across program increments. You will be able to see in a roadmap what we've already delivered in previous PIs and what we're working on in the current PI and what we might be planning for the next PI or the next couple of PIs. So that's a roadmap, and that's a basic concept that enterprises use, right? They can't be totally agile and only consider what is currently being worked on. They need to look ahead. That's what real enterprises do.
And to be clear, this is all customizable. So that gets into, this is one, what do you call that, a viewlet or something like that, right?
These we call them widgets. Viewlet is another word for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, thank you for that. So let's go ahead.
Okay, so Quick Create has 3 aspects to it. The first is, as I mentioned, a configuration option, okay? So I'm going into the application administration page, and this is not done by an end user. This is something that an administrator sets up for the team. Mm-hmm. And under work items, every work item type will now have a default child, okay? Mm-hmm. So we see Program Epic. We would want the Program Epic to have a default child of a feature. This is using the safe template, so it's using safe terms, right? We would want the feature to have a default work item type of story, right? And we would want a story to have
task.
Oops, that's right, I did task. That's not what I wanted to do. Story. to have a default work item type of task. So you basically go in and set this up, and then what happens is Quick Create will acknowledge the default work item type. Okay, so we'll save these changes.
That's awesome. I mean, before I think it took a few extra clicks, and that's what we're trying to reduce,
we're
right?
We're trying to avoid that. That's right. So now let's see what it looks like in action. Okay, if I have, I'm going to see if I can find a story. Actually, feature's probably more interesting, and there happens to be one sitting here, so let's just bring it up. So I'm going to click to open the work item editor for a feature. And the feature has a couple of really key attributes. Filed against, which is the team that owns the feature. And it also has the target iteration, which we call planned for. And you can see this is planned for PI4. Okay. Now, if I wanted to add a child story to this feature, what I used to have to do is click on the links tab, go down here, select child, add children. I mean, probably like 8 clicks. Okay. I don't have to do that anymore. There's a Quick Create button. Okay. So I'm going to click this. Don't blink because you're going to miss this. It's so darn fast. I'm going to click the Quick Create button, and there's the story. The story is automatically associated with the parent. Here's the parent feature. It would, once I save, it would actually show the parent feature. But furthermore, it automatically inherits the team that owns the feature and the target iteration. So that's how Quick Create works. So I could say, you know, this is a new story, and save, and boom, I'm done. It's basically one click. And now I have a story created, I have it linked to the parent automatically, and it's as simple as that.
Sweet.
That's Quick Create.
That is, you know, you described it as small, but I would say that for the folks who are creating a lot of work items, this is big. This is big.
It is big. Now, one thing that we have not done, but we will do in the next iteration of Rational Team Concert Tracking Planning is add that button in some additional places so that you will get the Quick Create kind of capability in places that you will normally be doing this, not just the work item editor, but in plan views, things like that.
Yeah, that would be nice because that's often where you think of it.
That's right.
Okay, great. And this is available in 605?
606.
Quick Create? 606. Okay, very good. Okay.
So the next thing is Quick Planner. Ready for that?
Quick Planner. Right, let's go.
Okay, Quick Planner is not as simple as Quick Create. Quick Planner is actually a new big feature, and it's under the Plans menu, and there's Quick Planner right there. And just in case you missed the beginning, this is optimized for simple team-based agile planning. Quick Planner supports 2 kinds of planning boards. One is a work board, and a work board is workflow agnostic. So organizations typically will define workflow for work items. Stories have a specific workflow, features have a specific workflow, and when you're planning, you need to abide by that workflow. That's what the organization kinds of sets up as a standard. But often teams want to spin up their own lanes that are tag-based or maybe based on owners of work. So in other words, the work board is where teams might do daily scrums or do work and organize their work in a way that is not tied to workflow. Whereas the planning board is for iteration planning, sprint planning, so it's tied to workflow. So those are the 2 types of boards. I already have some created over here. So I'm going to show you the planning board first. Here's the current sprint plan. And what I'm going to show you are a couple of key things about Quick Planner. First, there is a filter at the top. And so what I've set this up to do is show me just stories and tasks. I don't want to see risks. I don't want to see defects, none of that stuff. You can change that. So there's a filter for all the lanes in this board. You can also set up a filter just for an individual board. So if I wanted to see only defects on a lane, I want to create a lane that just has defects in it, I can do that as well. So both board scope, filters that are scoped to the whole board and filters that are scoped just to a lane. Now what you see here is, I told you we were in PI4. This is actually the current sprint. So we're currently working on sprint 4.5. Ignore the dates. It's a demo environment. It's a couple years old.
And two-year-old sprint. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So a couple of things to notice is the ability to rank. So you can see the little ranking number here, and ranking is quite simply done by drag and drop. So I can move this story that's ranked number 4 and put it above one of the other stories once I see that little ranking symbol. I just saw it a second ago.
So the view you're looking at here then is in rank order.
Yes, it's in rank order, so I can do
always going to pull it from the top.
Yeah. So the other thing that you can do is drag and drop to automatically create parents and children. So if I were if I wanted to create a new task or quite possibly, I'm looking for something that has, you see this little plus sign means that this story has children. So if I click the plus sign, I can actually see the child tasks under that. If I wanted to move one of these tasks to another story, pretty simple. I just grab the task and move it down to the story down here, and boom, it's moved under that story. So,
nice.
So drag and drop to not only establish parent-child relationships, but also to plan. So you see over here, I've got a story that's in PI4. That's not very logical. It actually belongs in a sprint. So I can move that story over to sprint 4.6 if I want, and put it at the top of the list, and it will automatically be ranked number 1. There it goes. Okay, so drag and drop to do sprint planning, quick and easy child task breakdown. I can look at the story that I just put in sprint 4.6 and click the open child task breakdown, and it doesn't have any children yet. It knows that I want to create a task, and I can say, this is a new task, and assign it to the same, I don't know, can't remember which team that was assigned to, but you get the idea. And basically, we are adding that child to that story. Right. So you can both create children or do work breakdown, but also change work breakdown in Quick Planner in the sprint views, and do all of your planning. And you can organize things by owner. We happen to be looking at things that are organized by rank, but you can actually edit a lane and say, you know what, I want to look at it by who owns what, and be able to kind of lead your Scrum meetings that way. You can see Curtis owns some, Marco owns some, and so on. Okay. You can
also Curtis the guy in the window? Is he the little photo? Is that the little, like if you hover, if you hover over that guy's photo,
yes,
is that
right
telling
here you mean?
who owns
yes,
it?
That's Curtis.
Okay,
yes,
so
Curtis.
You can see who owns it in that view
right.
too. See.
Now, one other thing that I want to show you is the ability to bulk edit. So we're looking at this ordered by owner. I can click on these two, and I can say, I want to change these to Bob. And there you go. So I just changed both of those to be owned by Bob.
Too. Amazing.
Yep. Okay. Now, finally, in the planning board, you will get the notion of team progress. This is probably not very interesting because we're in the middle of this sprint, and so we haven't achieved any story points yet. But had you achieved story points or resolved items, you would see that really quick team progress. Okay. So those are the basics of the planning board.
And just to be clear, this is a team. We're looking at a single team right now, right? Doing a sprint within PI4.
We happen to be looking at a program level, so there could be multiple teams.
Okay.
But you can definitely scope this down to a single team. That's totally up to you. And you can create boards and name boards and share boards that way. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So let's look at a work board. So remember, work boards are like...
This was a planning board, and now we're looking at a work board.
That's right. So a work board doesn't pay attention, unless you want it to states or workflow. You can see I've got some states in there. Actually, I'm going to just show you that you can really quickly trash those, right? You can actually even edit one. I'm going to edit one, and I'm going to make it a tag-based board. So I don't really want to see things that are in the review state. What I want to do instead is see things that have a tag of, let's do, the one on the left is ABC. So we'll make this the XYZ tag board. And we want to see those in any state group. So what we've done basically is edit this board to look at anything that's got the XYZ tag. Okay? Has nothing to do with workflow. So now you can see I've got the same work items in both lanes. Why? Because this is looking at things that have ABC, and this is looking at things that have XYZ. Now I can
Right.
go to this board and or this lane, and I can get rid of the XYZ tag on work item 104, and it will disappear from there, and you see the tag was removed in both places. Same work item, right? I can also use drag and drop to add tags, so I can drag this work item over into this lane, and it's going to add that tag back in. Actually, in this case, because this board, so I'm going to tell you what just happened, because this board is not showing everything with both ABC and XYZ, what that drag and drop just did was remove ABC and add XYZ. So you can do all kinds of things, and then the bulk edit behaves exactly the same way here.
Sure.
I can use bulk edit to select everything in this lane, and then let's say I want to remove the ABC tag, it will remove it from everything I've selected. And then all I'm left with is the XYZ tag, and you can see that here.
So it's interesting because usually the concept of tagging is that you open whatever item it is you have and then add the tag. And here what you're saying is, for example, you've got an analysis lane on the right, and so you can pick whatever kind of lane you want on one side and whatever tag you want on the left and say, you know what, that needs that tag and that needs that tag, and you just drag and drop them over and expedite that process. So that's pretty cool.
So the other thing that before we leave Quick Planner, we could spend an hour looking at Quick Planner. We do have a video on this. You can pin lanes, and you can also move lanes. So pinning basically just means now I can scoot along this way, right, and leave that one there. I can also reorder lanes. So if I want to move the analysis lane over here just because it's easy, but I can actually reorder lanes. And so I would be able to move that lane over that way if my mouse were cooperating with me, and basically reorder lanes. So you can spin up new lanes, move them around, all kinds of things. And you can do that on both boards.
Right. It's usability. We're getting back to usability, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Well, that's all good. And so the people who are using this then are the people who are planning the work, right? They're moving things around. They're organizing work. They're putting it up, maybe not assigning it to teams, but maybe they're creating it for a future iteration or a future program iteration or something.
That's right. So let's just use the safe analogy again, since we did that on the when we were talking about the program board. So if you were planning the next program increment, you're going into PI planning, teams would be looking at a set of features and then doing that breakdown of features into stories and tasks, and use Quick Planner to do that really quickly and easily. The program can also watch what the teams are doing, and they can see how the features are broken down into two stories and tasks. So that's the general idea. While teams are executing, they would also use Quick Planner to do their daily Scrum meetings or, whatever they do during that kind of process. Yeah.
Though if we were really playing to the Agile tenets, right, these people wouldn't be breaking things down into tasks. Each iteration, the team would take this and add tasks to the stories, right?
Yeah, that's
Once
right.
they
You should
accepted
not
them,
you should not be creating tasks on stories you're not working on yet. You're
That's
absolutely
right.
Yep. That's right.
Okay. Just in time planning. Okay, so real good. Let's move quickly into our final item, the program board. You said that might be a little bit more involved, so we don't want to take up too much more time because we're going to have links to all this stuff. But yeah, let's have a look.
So the program board is also under plans because it's another aspect of planning. And the program board is in technical preview in 606. You do need to enable it if you want to use it because it's tech preview. So this gives you the ability to play with it, comment on it, tell us what you like and don't like. But this is basically kind of what it looks like. And when you set up a program board, I mentioned that it was safe agnostic. It's actually methodology agnostic. What it's basically showing you is within the scope of a program, it is showing you features.
Can you scroll down just a little bit, just because you can't see it? Okay, keep going. Yep.
It's showing you features or parent work items, and you can tell the program board what you consider a parent work item. Doesn't have to be a feature. It's showing you the parent work items that are within the scope that you set, looking at PI4, and we're looking at features and stories. So when you set up a program board, you will see, okay, this is the scope I'm looking at. My parent is a feature, my child is a story. But this could be business needs and tasks. It could be Brian's work item and Amy's work item. Doesn't matter, as long as they have a parent-child relationship. And then what it's showing you down here is features will show up in a lane for a team when the feature has a child that's associated with that team, and that child is targeted for this iteration, Sprint 4.1, 4.2, okay? It also is showing you where dependencies exist. So you see we have a dependency here between a story under this feature, 304, and a story that's under this feature, which is also 304. So in other words, we've got two stories under a feature that have a dependency between them. You can have dependencies across features. That happens to be the same feature. You can also have dependencies that are red or green. This one's green. Green means you have a dependency, but it's no big deal. Why? Because they're both planned for Sprint 4.5.
I see.
So if we wanted to...
Can maybe dependencies across program increments, dependencies across, how does that work?
There can be dependencies across program increments, and in that case, we will show you there's a dependency that's out of scope. The program board is scoped to one program and one program increment. So if you have dependencies across program increments, the program board will tell you that, but it will show that it's out of scope. So it's actionable, okay? This is not just a visualization. I can click on this, and I can view the story work items that are for this parent. And when I look at those, I can edit the story work item. I can add it as a child to another feature, for example. I can do those kinds of things. I can click on it to go open it in the work item editor. I can also open the feature in the editor. I can do things like mitigate dependencies. So what I'm going to show you, this is a green dependency. If I look at the dependencies, I'm going to turn this red, which isn't obviously something that you want to do. You want them all to be green. But if I were to edit this dependency and I were to say this arrow is showing you that this depends on this, that's the arrow is going from right to left. So if I were to change this one to be in, let's say 4.6, say, right, because it's dependent on something that's in a later sprint, that dependency turns red. See that?
I see.
And the reason it turns red is because there's a dependency between a story here, or a child in this work item, and a child in this work item, and they're not sequenced correctly.
Right. Yep, makes sense.
Okay.
So now so this is pulling data then from the either Quick Planner or other parts of RTC that are part of the planning process, and then this visualizes those things. Is that how it works?
That's exactly right. So in these things that I've shown you, Quick Planner and the program board, they're basically different lenses on the data that's in Rational Team Concert. So it's not different data. I could, as a program manager, be looking in a traditional RTC plan view and see exactly what's going on, what changes have happened in the program board. It's just a different lens, a different kind of portal, if you will, into the same data for some specific purpose, like managing dependencies in this case, or like quick and easy Agile planning in the case of Quick Planner.
So real quick before we wrap up here, can you give me an example of how an art team or a larger PI planning team would use this in addition? It seems to me like they would need to use this in addition to other tools or processes. Do people sit at a computer and type up features and add dependencies in real time during these things typically, or do they use a board to start with, and then afterwards somebody goes and fixes all this up so that then they can visualize it in this way? How does that, how have you seen that work?
So that's a great question. If an organization has the luxury to really optimally lead PI planning, which is to say they get to pull everyone together in a single room, a board with sticky notes is awesome. In reality, most enterprises are co-located, geographically dispersed.
Mm-hmm.
not whether they're in different offices or different buildings or across
Right.
the world. So
Mm-hmm.
this would be used in either way, but it
Mm-hmm.
is a way to support distributed teams that need to do PI planning, and they may not be geographically co-located. So
Right.
you could use this live during PI planning, or
Mm-hmm.
you could do the traditional PI planning in a room and then enter the data later. I think either way works just fine. The bottom line is that Rational Team Concert and the collaborative lifecycle management solution suite as a whole gives you a single source of truth for those large enterprises, and most all of the organizations and customers that I work with are
Mm-hmm.
regulated. This is a single source of truth. This is audit ready
Right.
with a push of
Okay.
a button. Everything that's being done
Really?
during PI planning the history is kept, and so the idea that you're doing this in a tool, regardless of how the data gets in there, is really, really critical for most regulated enterprises.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we work in those industries all the time, and those are common questions. How do we roll things back? How do we prove that we've accomplished this, or just a history, right?
Right, right.
Amy Silberbauer, thank you so much for joining
Well,
us again. We really appreciated it. Quick Planner, Quick Create, not in that order. I guess it's Quick Create, Quick Planner,
it's okay.
and the new RTC program board. Really exciting stuff. Usability, it's all around usability and balancing usability and complexity, because we all know that IBM creates tools that are enterprise class, and so there's always a balance between those two things. So thanks to all our viewers for joining us today. There are links at the bottom below this screen for you to link to more information. And Amy, maybe you can wrap up with a couple of things about how these folks can get these new plugins and features.
Yep. Thanks, Bryan. So I really enjoyed this discussion today. I hope you did too. The demonstration was really just a little teaser. So there's lots more to see. The links that Bryan mentioned allow you to see some videos of Quick Planner and also Program Board that are much more extensive than what I just showed you. And you can get the Program Board technical preview. It's a downloadable plugin from jazz.net. So if you're interested in that, just go to jazz.net and you can learn all about it.
Okay, great. Do you have to be on 605 or 606 first in order to
Yeah, you
download?
do. Yes, you do have to be on 606 to use the Program Board. Quick Planner is in 605.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Amy, from IBM's Watson Internet of Things group. We really appreciate your time, and we will see everybody next time on 321 Gangs Change the Conversation. Take care.